So what I've done today is compressed about 60 minutes of keynote down into about 25 minutes. So I'm going to go really, really fast. You can have a copy of this presentation, use it at will. But the goal that I've got here today is to really take you on sort of a high-speed journey through what I think will be the new pillars of marketing and what's going to guide those pillars. And I wanted to start by really, you've seen the numbers are staggering. And marketing fundamentally has gone through a shift that was sort of built on 100 years of effort by marketers, by advertisers, by the media, for us to become experts in transmission, experts in driving our message, our data, our pricing, whatever we might have through a channel to someone who wasn't normally ready to receive it, but if it was good enough, they kind of got it. That world's over. That world's behind us. And we're in a new world which is going to be based on participation. And this new world is redefining everything around us. Very traditional societal norms are really being turned on their head. Probably one of the great societal norms is getting married. Although I'm still surprised when I come back down to New Zealand, the number of people that have partners rather than wives or husbands. It's very, very, very different than the US, for instance. But you think about where you met your partner, your wife, your husband. For the vast majority of us who are old enough to remember this, you met through friends, you met through colleagues, dare I say you even met at work mainly. Now the algorithm does that for you. And more of those people are meeting efficiently online via Match.com and other sources. And marketers are actually really good at this, it turns out. What's even more staggering is when you look at the data in, for instance, the gay community, it's even a greater disproportionate amount that are meeting their next partner through online sites. The algorithm has replaced the societal norm. And when you look at this and you get underneath it, what you discover is that technology turns everything on its head. And if you're not a technologist and you're not embracing technology as an individual, you're largely irrelevant. It's still surprising to me the number of marketers I'll bump into and I'll say, wow, what do you think of the iPad? How are you using your iPad? Oh, I don't have one yet, we don't get issued them at work. And I'm like, what? Like, what, you're waiting for your employer to issue an get a life, go buy an iPad right now. Go buy an iPhone 5 or an iPhone whatever right now. Go buy a Galaxy S3 right now. If you don't really comprehend this technology, you'll go the way of the record store, you'll go the way of the bookstore, industries which largely ignored the technology going on around them. And look, when I was, sitting in Silicon Valley 10 years ago and watching the birth of Amazon and watching the birth of just site after site after site, people would say to me, hey, look, there'll be no more record stores within 5 years. I'd be like, yeah, whatever. There'll always be record stores in San Francisco. It's the home of the great record stores, right? There are no record stores left in San Francisco. People would say to me, they're going to wipe out the bookstore. And I'd be like, yeah, it's nuts. Those of you who ever went to Rizzoli Books in San Francisco, down next to Gump's, you know what I mean. Just magnificent, beautiful bookstore. I mean, you could live in there, those of you that are into books. Just, it's an amazing place. Gone, extinct, right? And why does this happen? And it happens because each of these eras are characterized by monumental technology shifts. And if you think of the internet era, it was mainly dominated by search. And people say to me, wow, this is going so fast, and is the Facebook thing is it all over? I'm like, come on, look, it's taken us around 10 to 12 years just to figure out the search thing. And most of us are barely getting to grips with it right now. I go to universities and I speak a lot at the equivalent of ATU, place like that, and I'll say, let me look at your marketing curriculum. You're not teaching search. How could you not teach search as an integral part of your marketing curriculum? That's kind of like not teaching media or, just fries the brain. But this new era is really characterized by some major new shifts. First of all, into the stream. And what I'd say to you there is that's a huge challenge for us. Just because we can communicate in real time and we're always on doesn't mean we're getting any more productive. Last week had the opportunity to hang with a famous sort of motivational dude called Anthony Robbins. And he was saying it's staggering the number of people who will go to conferences like this and sit there and frantically tweet with their head down, letting the world know what's going on. And all the time they're doing that, they're not listening and they're not absorbing. And that's why 8 weeks from now you will have retained less than 10% of what you heard here. Because we don't practice active listening. We're focused on broadcasting, to all our friends and families and whoever we think may be vaguely interested. Broadband's changed it all. I think that's still a big challenge here in New Zealand. It's a challenge in most parts of the world, this idea of always-on connectivity, right, wherever I go. I mean, it's staggering when you go to China, the fact that nearly any city you walk into, you open your device and you're on a network, right? And finally, the shift to mobile. You're going to hear a lot about that, right? And I'm going to touch on it in a bit more detail in a minute. It is profound, right? The small screen, the third screen, and that quickly after that's coming the fourth screen. Your TV is going to be completely transformed in your living room and become a complete center for your life, right? It's going to the boundaries of that being a device through which information is transmitted to you and you sit passively and wait for something to arrive will be transformed as that becomes a highly interactive, highly dynamic sort of front to your world. So what does that all mean? It means that we're really going to have to shift. And I'm going to touch on what I think are the 5 most important areas of this. There's actually about 10, 12 shifts that sort of I talk about in a longer session, but I want to touch on 5 that I think are really crucial. The first shift is you've got to figure out how to participate. And this is not something your agencies can do for you. They'll have some really cool ideas, but you actually need to sit and figure out how do you break the walls down between your business or your enterprise and the customers that you serve. How do you deliver relevant, meaningful content to them and engage them? And to do that, you're going to have to do the one thing that marketers are not schooled on effectively. And that is you're going to have to learn to listen. And we as marketers generally are not great at listening. Right? We think we can do that through research groups and focus groups and all kinds of things like that. And those are important things you're going to need to keep doing. But you're going to need to look for new ways of plugging into the conversation. And there's no more powerful example of this than this woman here sitting in Salt Lake City blogging away about her lazy experience with Maytag. You know, I was tweeting away yesterday about my thoughts on Air New Zealand as I was flying home, right? And it's silent. And you go, are these people listening to their customers? Are they plugged in at all to their customers? And you go, well, they better start being, because this person here has a few less followers than me, but she has a few more followers than me. She has 1.5 million people following her feed. And on average, each of them has 142 people following them. And the network effect is probably the single most important thing you need to dig in at this conference, is what is the network effect of everything you do? Because her network effect is profound on Maytag, which is why the smart companies are looking at listening internally and externally. They're turning to things like Chatter, things like Yammer, right? Email's going to die fast. It still blows my mind the number of people who say, hey, can I have your fax number? I'd like to send you something. And I'm like, I don't even know if we have a fax machine. And email's fast going that way. The new generation of worker you're going to hire is going to go, email, really? Like, no, I don't do email. I just tweet me, chat with me, engage in real-time conversation, aggregate the conversation. Which is why we've done things like Idea Bank, right? A place where our customers can come and give us their ideas. Because what you're doing there is you're surfacing the stuff that matters to our customer and your customer. I don't know about you guys, but the average age of a marketer at CBA has to be sort of in the 28 to 32-year-old bracket. They're all young, yuppie types, running around, enjoying life, getting married, having kids. They're all starting their big life's journey. What was interesting is one of the number one ideas that was surfaced through Idea Bank were services for the grey and the elderly market, as they call them, right? They were people looking after their parents who found dealing with the banking stuff really frustrating. Having to drive to where their parents were, pick their parents up, drive to a bank branch, sign all kinds of forms, drive their parents back. There's got to be a better way, we heard through Idea. And that's not something that a bunch of 32-year-olds are going to come up with, right? But customers who have a pain point come up and they express that need. You've got to learn to listen to it. And it's why we do things like Community Seeds, right? This is one of the only, it's the only Facebook Studio Award winner down under so far. But it's a program where we basically said, what if we took a big chunk of our donations and charitable dollars and let our customers and stakeholders decide where those dollars should go? And let them determine it. Not a bunch of people sitting in a boardroom, right? but rather let the community determine where their dollars should go. What are the causes and initiatives that could most benefit? And the net effect of that is we build a Facebook community following, we increase the number of followers if we got, increases our marketing ecosystem, engenders goodwill in the community, the list goes on and on and on and on, right? Enormously powerful, right? It's why we do it with business inside Facebook. Been absolutely stunned at how powerful Facebook has become for business relationships and connecting to people. It is the place people tend to go now for everything. It is not just a consumer, a portal and site for us. The next big shift is mobile, and place has become everywhere. And still today, marketers are trapped with the archetypal sort of 80-20 rule. I'd say it's closer to a 90-10 rule. And that is around 80 to 90% of all your dollars go to doing exactly what you did last year. And that is roughly informed by what you did the year before that. And why is that? Well, it's easier, right? You have the budget templates. You've kind of figured out a little bit what works, so you've de-risked your budget. Your agencies are all locked up with fixed cost structures. They have executive creative directors who have junior executive creative directors, and they come with account strategists, so they don't like change too much. They've got a lot of fat mouths to feed. And so when you go, okay, let's right-hand turn into mobile. Let's not just build ads. Let's not build direct marketing. Let's not build websites. Let's build applications. Let's actually build products and services that our customers want. The first response is, shit, I don't know where I'm going to get the money from. The answer is you have the dollars. You don't lack for resources. You lack for a desire to change. And so the big thing I challenge you on over the next day is to decide if you were to just reprioritize the budget you had based on everything you've heard here, what would your budget now look like? Who would be the new agency partners you'd have to have on your roster? Who would be the new employees you'd have to go seek out? What are the devices you'd have to have hanging around your workplace so you could figure out how to do it? And when you do that, everything starts to change, okay? And here are a few examples. This is just a little bit about, you're going to hear a lot about this, about what's going on in mobile, but it's how people go to Facebook, right? Took Facebook a while to figure this out too, right? But most importantly, mobile's typically what people do while they're doing something else. So mobile doesn't need to be simple because the screen's smaller. It needs to be simple because generally on a mobile device, you're doing something else while you're using it. And there's no better example of this than banking. Those are logins to NetBank, our online banking platform during the royal wedding. You can see them spiking there. Long, boring affair punctuated by moments of excitement. And this is what happens during the day, logins to NetBank. You see desktop still there. People come to work and do a little bit of their banking and then it tapers off. Mobile takes off before they get to work. People are sitting in buses and cars, checking their bank balance, paying bills, doing stuff like that. And at night, they swing into the tablet. So they start using the form factor of the tablet. You can no longer build for one screen. You're going to have to build for all of three of those screens and a fourth one, the TV, real soon. What's really interesting also is what happens during the ad breaks. This is logins during The Voice. And you can see what happens here. Mobile also needs to be simple, not just because it's something you do while you're doing something else. It's because you've got about 1 minute and 30 seconds to get it done in. Right? Like how would you complete an end-to-end transaction with Woolies or Coles or whoever you're buying from if you had 1 minute and 30 seconds? That's your window of opportunity with the customer. Which is why when we build something like Ka-Ching, I think ASB is going to offer this soon down here if they don't already, a really radical online, fully integrated mobile wallet. It's as much a marketing strategy as it is a business strategy. This is how you acquire the customer. You show this to a customer in the network effect when you come home to pay the babysitter, and you do, if I wasn't a CMO, I'd definitely be a babysitter. They earn more money than anyone I've ever met for doing nothing. My wife says that's just like marketing people, so it'd be an easy switch. But you come home and you're like, you've spent all your money on booze and taxis, and you owe the babysitter, $494 and whatever. And you got no money. Well, you open Ka-Ching and you pay her email address, you pay her mobile, you pay her Facebook account. You can bump her, tap her phone, It's the fastest growing form of peer-to-peer payment on the mobile device. There's so many other ways of dealing with this and making this happen. Really exciting. And that changes society too. You know, people can start paying everyone in different ways. And you start doing the data stream you've got behind mobile is hugely powerful. I think ASB is going to offer this one down here too. We do it in Australia. Walk up to any house in Australia, hold your phone up, take a picture of the house. It'll tell you how much the house is worth, how much you could potentially buy it for, and enable you to apply for the loan with the push of a button. Right? Now, that sounds it's kind of neat to go to your new friend's house and find out how much they paid for their house, but it's also quite cool to stand in front of very large apartment buildings and see what's for sale and how much individual apartments sold for and stuff. So the list goes on here. And I'm going to go through these pretty fast, mainly because I've got 9 minutes left and I do want to get to the end here. But you're going to have to learn to personalize, use big data to personalize. And I really believe, though, that personalization on the brand side starts with telling stories, right? When you meet a marketer from a brand, whether that brand's Air New Zealand or foodstuffs or whatever, ask them to tell you their story. Why does their brand exist? Right? And get them to tell the story. But right behind the brand is data. And I actually believe that the next generation of marketers we're going to hire are increasingly going to be data scientists. Okay, they're going to be crazy math brainiacs that are the opposite of the marketers we've been hiring for the last 20 years who can mine large data sets and personalize. Because if you can't personalize, you can't deliver very intimate, tailored web experiences. Now this, for instance, looks like a nice enough website and it's the kind of thing you'd hit when you hit the bank, but the average user is not going to want this in the future. They're going to want us to know that they've been on domain.com.au looking for a house, that they've been visiting and using our property app. They're going to want to know we've got all that data so that when they land, they're getting highly contextualized and highly relevant information. Okay, it's not enough just to do the web well. You're going to have to make it personal. And to make it personal, you're going to have to learn how to mine incredibly large, complex data sets. There's a lot of talk up in San Francisco last week about the fact that, you know, the marketing budget's going to be bigger than the IT budget in a few years. I actually don't think that's largely true, and I don't think many people understand how small the marketing budget is relative to the IT budget. But I do think that you're going to have to learn to become best friends with the CIO. You really are. And you're going to have to learn how to tap into the CIO's wallet and making sure that the marketing priorities are reflected in where your IT spend is going. Right? It's going to be absolutely critical to your success. And reflecting that out onto tablets. You can see here, highly personalized. It's got their accounts and goals and everything they could want. Next up, you're going to have to learn how to gamify everything. The average young adult entering the workplace enters the workplace having played games online in one form or another for around 10,000 hours. Okay? We are not used to doing things in boring, linear fashion. Take any stupid form that you're making a customer fill out and gamify it. And that's what brands around the world are doing right now. Okay? They're making business fun again. Right? It's the largest industry in the world. Gaming is bigger than the music industry and the movie industry combined. Okay? Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, one of the biggest movies of last year. Opening weekend did $98 million in revenue. Good opening weekend for a blockbuster, right? Same weekend, Call of Duty Black Ops 3 launched. Sold $355 million of product. Same weekend. Okay, it's changed. And if Domino's, who I think probably are one of the leading, if not the leading online retailers out there today can do it, we can do it. My kid, I don't really like Domino's pizzas very much. I'm far too much of a yuppie. But my kids are obsessed with it. And they're not obsessed with it because the cheese pizza's any good. They're obsessed with it because they've got that stupid oven timer clock thing on their site. You know, and they're like, right, Dad, let's go order a Domino's. I'm like, oh, God, here we go. You know, and it's like, look, it's in the oven. Okay, it's in the car. And they'll rush to the window and stand outside, wait for it. I mean, it's just brilliant. They've gamified, right, a seemingly mundane and stupid process of ordering a pizza and created incredible audience stickiness. You look, this is State Farm's insurance application. Are you married or single? Right? I don't know why the single people have the very boring beard and the married people... Clearly the person who did this is not married because they know it's actually the precise opposite in real life. But if they can gamify an insurance form, anybody can gamify anything. And the results are staggering. This is our Facebook competition. All you have to do is go into a branch, open a savings account, check in on Facebook and like us. For that, we'll give you 2 free movie tickets every month. You put your pay into your account. Simple, right? We thought this campaign would take around 40, 50 days to sell out. Took a matter of hours. Right? Probably the most effective marketing campaign we did in the last year. Right? And our real problem as marketers is rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, and keep doing this stuff because we're habitually looking for the new idea. You know, you go back to the marketing team and you say, well, are we doing that Facebook campaign again? No, but I'm doing this amazing campaign with Spotify. You're like, oh, no, just go back, do the Facebook one again. Just worked. That's why we've built things like Coinland that has about 1.2 million Australian kids playing games in it. Really powerful. Now, this final one I'm going to wrap up with is the big one, and it's sort of soft and squishy. It's actually about a 10-minute conversation on why brands matter and why they're really important. But if you don't know really why the brand exists, you have no business doing any of the first 4 or any of the next 4 to 20 that come after it. And you have to be absolutely laser clear about the purpose of your brand. Great brands, okay, are able to circumvent all kinds of disasters through a focus on purpose. Right? And you look at them around the world today, and there's a number of them. At Southwest Airlines. Their people don't load blags onto planes so you can get a $99 fare. They give you freedom and the freedom to fly, and the employees passionately believe that. This is a big retailer in the US. Do they screw suppliers for steep prices? Boy, they actually do that. I've worked with them quite a lot. But no, they're obsessed with this idea at Walmart that without us, we don't get to improve the quality of life of millions and millions of people. They don't get access to low-cost medication. They don't get access to low-cost food. They don't get access to all kinds of things they'd never get access to. And that's what's enabled them to go from zero to the largest, if not the largest business in the world in record time. The largest growing organic business in the history of the planet ever. No one's grown faster. All because of that absolutely binary focus on purpose. And this last one, some of you will know if you've been to the US, the most successful retailer in the world. Now, if you met the employees that work for this retailer, you would never be able to pick this. They are the most tattooed, pierced, grungiest looking group of individuals you'll ever see in one place. I mean, if these people turned up to babysit your kids, you'd just be like, oh, we're staying home. It's good. Okay, and that's Whole Foods. Right? And they're able to attract those people and give them purpose and focus them because they know what business they're in. They're not in the business of selling you exorbitantly priced organic foods, right? They're in the business of nourishing you, right? And I'd say to you that time and time again, you've got to figure that out. And you've got to get to the core of why your brand exists. Otherwise, the rest of it, you have all these people over the next day or so telling you about, oh, you've got to go solo-mo, you've got to go mobile, you've got to do this, you've got to build this app. So first of all, I'm just going to figure out what the hell we do and why we exist. Like, what do we actually do for the customer? And we looked at this at CommBank. It came down to 3 simple letters. CAN. Interestingly, in our voice response records, you know when you phone a call center and they say, this conversation will be recorded and used against you. We actually do record the conversation, it turns out. And you can actually analyze it. We found that over 90% of all customers calling in use the word, over 46% of all customers calling in use the word can't. Can't find my credit card, can't pay this bill, can't do this, can't do that. And over 96% of all of those conversations ended with the word can. Found that we said the word can in a material way over 10,500 times a day to people. You can have that loan, you can have that house, you can go on that overseas trip, whatever. It actually became the bedrock of our campaign. And I'll just quickly play this for you and you'll get a feel for how that came to life. This is the opening TVC.
There's a 4-letter word, as offensive as any. It holds back the few, puts a stop to the many. You can't climb that mountain, you can't cross the sea, you can't become anything you want to be. You can't hit a century, they can't find a cure. She can't think about leaving or searching for more. Because can't is a word with the habit of stopping the ebb and flow of ideas. It keeps dropping itself where we know in our hearts it's not needed, and saying don't go when we could have succeeded. But those 4 little letters that end with a T, they can change in an instant when shortened to 3. We can take off the T, we can do it today. We can move forward, not back. We can find our own way. We can build, we can run, we can follow the sun, we can push, we can pull. We can say, I'm someone who refuses to believe that life can't be better, with the removal of one insignificant letter.
So the unintended consequence of that campaign were literally thousands and thousands of requests from schools and hospitals saying, can we get a copy of your poem? Because it's right on the money. That's exactly what we want our people to believe. So it became more than a purpose, it also became an attitude. And I'd say as you look at that purpose and you start to comprehend it in the context of the business, it only matters if it gets institutionalized. It only matters if it distills down to simple little things like this little can book that tells every single employee what to do when confronted with the customer that says, I bet you can't give me a loan, and sits there and wryly smiles at you. Right? How do you answer that question? What do you do? How do you get a customer to can? Because at the end of the day, I really fundamentally believe that all of us that manage brands, and many of you are working for agencies or media companies or suppliers to the marketing function, you've got to figure out what your purpose is too. If you don't really understand the experience you're going to leave, right, on the back of purpose, on the back of mobile, on the back of gamification, on the back of everything I've talked about, it will not work. It just will not work for you. Because you've got to really understand, I think Maya's right on the money here, that you'll never forget, the customer just will never forget how you made them feel, right? And you can put the very best entertainment system in the very best plane with the very best food, but if the people on that plane don't make you feel good, that's all you're going to remember. And every one of us are going to face those moments of truth. And none of us are perfect, but learning to manage purpose, I think, will be an art and sort of a prerequisite to success in this new world that I've just spoken about.